So I said, okay. And I said, Captain, guess what? Our ship is about to explode. They loved it.
It's funny.
They loved it. They loved it. You know,
I hate it when they say it, but that's a good adjustment.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Gonna go and do my convention thing. Got my costume, I'm going now. Yeah, we're having a ball. It's Star Trek, y'all. Hey, there's a order. Beam me up.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of Shuttlepod. We are very excited to be here at the Road Theater Company on the set of their current show. We're super grateful for their production manager, Daryl Johnson, for all of his help. Thank you, Daryl. We have a very special guest today. I'm Erica LaRose, and now for our hosts, Connor Trenier and Dominic Keating. Hi, guys.
Hey, Erica.
Darling,
Nice
Erica,
to see
sweetheart.
you. Welcome
Likewise.
Thank you very much. They let me back in the country.
Took a while.
Oh, it was touch and go.
back. That's why we weren't here.
It's a long, hot summer.
Yeah, we had the governor do a letter.
What did you do for the summer, hon?
I did a bit of traveling, and
I didn't mean the other hun.
Well, you were
But you all do.
He's looking right at me. Well, thanks,
Oh, my goodness.
thanks, Daddy.
Let's go with hun number one.
Number one.
What did you do for the summer, sweetheart?
Hun number one.
No, that's you, love.
Oh, what did I do? I saw you guys only once.
I know you went island hopping forever.
I went to, I went to Mexico.
and the Bahamas.
And then I went to the Bahamas for a wedding.
Tough life. They're paying you too much.
Yeah.
I spent some time by Venice Beach, which I
I
love.
saw you got a place down there.
Yep.
And you, hun, number 2.
Well, I did a bit of traveling myself, and recently I had a colonoscopy, so that was fun.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you film it? It's all the rage these days.
Well, they do that to standard. You can buy the VHS tape if you want, or get like a link that you can share with people. So it's going to to be a Christmas gift.
Was it you and Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, we were holding hands during the whole thing.
It's a long walk up memory lane.
How'd it go?
Do you remember that steak?
Where'd the Hot Wheels car come from?
Hilarious. I went to Amsterdam.
That's right.
I had almost a month. Did you know I was there for Pride? After 2 years, they hadn't had Pride in Amsterdam. I
Must have
swear
gone
it,
off.
I nearly came out, sweetheart. it was this close. It was a very fun place to be, and I hadn't been back. I went back to England for 5 days, and they were just coming at the end of that huge hot summer. Anyway, this week, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers, we are so very honoured, excited, over the moon. This is the first guest kind of away from our show,
Yeah.
and we have gone back in time. Well, forward in time from our show. This could get complicated.
I'm with you.
Are you feeling it? This is a big fish marquee name, and I'm really honoured to introduce to you all my mate, Walter Koenig. God bless you, Walter.
Yeah, it's an honor,
Hello,
man.
pal.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
So happy to be here.
I tell you, mate, that's going to take a lot of people's breath away that we have gone back to the source. And it really is such a delight that you've said you'd come and do this with us. And you're looking terrific, mate, by the way.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Because I know you're getting up there.
86.
Shut
it
the
really?
door, really?
Yeah.
That's, swear to God, I usually get to say to people like that, yeah, I've got socks older than, but no, I really don't. 86, man. How you feeling? You look great.
Well, I feel pretty good. I think I have a sciatica.
Yeah. I've
You
got
know,
a bit of that.
it's an inherited disease. My father had it, although a condition, not a disease, but a condition. And I remember that, when I was 10 and 12, that he was always complaining about it.
And we don't listen when we're young. My
No.
mum talked about her arthritis in her hands, and what
You're like,
the fuck did
"Wah, wah,
I got it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't listen when we're young. Is it very painful and
It's not.
does it flare?
It doesn't. It's not painful when I sit or when I lie down or even when I walk around the house. I have a dog. Unfortunately, I'm about
He's older than you, isn't he? In dog years.
in dog years.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. We've had him. He's a standard poodle, and we've had him for 8 years. He's a a dog that we.
Is he a pure poodle?
It's a
Or
pure
he's
poodle.
not one of those morphed poodles.
No, he's a pure poodle. But
What's his
he's not.
name?
He's not that bright.
It's not poodles.
Oh, they're supposed to be very smart.
Everybody
You got a
always
dumb
says-
poodle.
Everybody
They're
says
the
this.
smartest dogs in the world.
I know that's what they say.
They speak German.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they do it with a very strange accent.
We'll get to the accent.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, we're right in. What's his name?
His name is Quince,
Oh,
and he's named after a
yes.
character in Midsummer Night's Dream,
Midsummer Night's Dream.
which
Absolutely.
who I played.
Did you? You look like you play a good. You do a good Quince
I did the Peter Quince, yeah.
in the park or
no
where was-
neighborhood playhouse.
Oh.
So well, all right.
Let's get into it.
Get into it. Where did you grow up in New York? Or was the family originally from there?
No, my family was from Lithuania, Russian Jews from Lithuania. I was born in Chicago, but I grew up in New York City.
How old were you when they moved you from as a baby or young kid from Chicago to New York? Then
Well, we went from Chicago to Warsaw. My father was representing RCA Victor.
in Poland or Warsaw?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Right? Like, otherwise, I thought Warsaw, New York. You never know in America.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right next to Paris.
Well, we went from Warsaw,
All right.
Poland, to Paris, and we were there for about 3 or 4 months. I got very ill. They didn't have pasteurized milk in the land of Louis Pasteur, and we had to come back to the States because there was a danger that I might expire.
Was this, what sort of years were these then? This was,
37,
I was
38.
going to say, it was around
Wow.
about the beginning
Before it all.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding.
Well, we went through from Warsaw to Paris. We went by train. We went by boat from from Chicago to Warsaw. We went by the Queen Mary, and then we went.
Did you?
On the way back from Paris? We went by the Normandy.
Wow.
The great ship.
What did your dad do?
What's that?
What did your father do?
My father was representing them. I don't know precisely what he did, but the reason why he was chosen is because he spoke about 4 or 5 languages. So he spoke Polish and Russian and Yiddish and very good English. It was not bastardized or something you make fun of.
Can you speak?
No, I don't speak any language. Nine. That's it.
A solid 1.
In short,
And Schweinhund. I saw a lot of Second World War movies,
Did
and they
you-
always said Schweinhund.
Schweinhund, yeah. Handy Hock and Schweinhund. Did your dad, was he born in the States or did he come over to America as a young boy?
He came over as a young boy. They came in about 1912, 1910, 1912. Yeah.
So when did the family, as far as you know, come first from Lithuania? Was that in the 1800s, I take it? I must have, what a thing.
Well, no, I think we came directly from Lithuania, but my father always identified himself as being Russian, being Russian Jew.
Did he speak with a Russian accent when he spoke English? Was that where you first heard that voice?
Well, that's what I say because nobody thinks I do a very credible dialect.
I beg
We
to
were
differ.
just talking about this.
I'll stand up for that accent you gave in
good.
as Pav every time. I loved it. It's a credible, very. It is thick, but a lot of Russians speak with a thick Russian accent because they're Russian,
Right. Yeah.
When I was doing
And a lot of American actors, I'm sorry, just can't do accents. Period. So
Yeah.
I go 10 out of 10 in my for me.
on television, I've done German, I've done Swedish on Gidget. I played a Swede on Gidget,
Did you really?
and I got to spank my girlfriend.
Honest to God, you always had a girl.
I was going to say, we were looking at episodes, and yeah, you did well.
Yeah.
You got a lot of the blondes, and that one episode, was it I Mud? Or is it the Apple one?
Well, the Apple's got the girlfriend.
Yeah,
That you show them the kissing and the.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's interesting. When I was in drama school, I went to the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York. That's after I graduated college at UCLA, and then went back to New York on the encouragement, enthusiasm of the one acting teacher I had at UCLA, who said, don't don't be a psychologist. Be an actor.
Oh, so you went to read psychology at UCLA?
I got a degree in psychology.
Right. Not bad for an actor, you know. It's
Yeah.
a good study.
So anyway, I'm at the neighborhood playhouse, and we're at a party one night, and Sid Pollock was an assistant teacher. He was like 19 or 20, and he was just starting out. And I went up to him and I said, Sid, what kind of parts do you think will be available to me?
How generous was he?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Oh my God. He was tipsy to begin with. And he said, you're not commercial. You know, you're not going to get to kiss the girl, and you're going to have to be seen in some garret somewhere in order to get a role. And he really was vehement. He says, I never got the girl, and you're not going to get the girl. Well, you know,
How'd that work out, Sid?
You're right.
you know, it upset me a little bit, but not nearly as much as I would have imagined. And the next day, he was so apologetic. He was so incredibly, and you know, I'm sorry, I was drunk, blah, 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 blah. He tried to get me 2 jobs after I graduated from school.
Really?
Yeah. One was an equity job. I was in equity at the time, and he was directing a play before the Mark Taper was the Mark Taper. They were doing it at Schoenberg Hall at UCLA.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He tried to get me in that Whitmore.
Oh, yes, the Whitmore.
Yeah. He was the lead, and Dabney Coleman and I would have been there from the neighborhood playhouse. Dabney was in my class as well.
Nice, all right.
So I couldn't get it because that's the only bloody theater probably in the entire United States where being cast in an equity production is not available if you're not a member of the union to begin with. At the time.
How perverse.
Yeah, at the time. So I didn't get that. Right. And then he also had me, in fact, the day after I graduated from the neighborhood playhouse. I mean, talk about stories that we've all lived through, all actors have, one time or another, have examples of. I get a telegram. I'm in my avenue, between my Avenue B and Avenue C apartment, and I get it because I don't have a phone. And I get a telegram saying the Schwartz-Luskin agency has an appointment for you today, the day after I graduate. And I go, and it's with
Broadway?
Frankenheim.
John Frankenheim.
John Frankenheim.
Right.
Yeah.
John Frank, all right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they were shooting a movie in New York with Shelley Winters and Burt Lancaster. And there was a part that Sid wanted me for. And I guess there was a lot of guilt on his part because he was still dealing with having said that to me, which I got over,
Sure.
They never let him know it.
Right, yeah.
There you go. So,
it still hurts, Sid.
Right.
So it was it was the guy who was leader of the gang, and he was a pool player, and his name was Big Dom.
No shit.
You wonder why when he was called Big Dom.
Yeah, but the Big Dom.
So then they decided to not shoot it in New York. We were going to shoot it in L.A. And if I could get to L.A., I would have the part.
Is that what got you out here?
That's what brought me out here.
No kidding.
Yeah. So and Sid said, call me every other day, and I'll tell you when you start work.
So what sort of year was that then? 60?
1960.
No kidding.
1960.
I'm still not born yet.
Soon.
I love doing that. I've nearly got a pair of socks.
And I was also cast in a play. The play was
Here in LA.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was cast in it, I said to the director, I said, "You sure?" I mean, Earl Holliman played this role in the film. And Earl Holliman was like 6'2", and they talk about this guy eating, a dozen pancakes and a dozen eggs for breakfast. So I called Sid, as I had been calling him every other day, as he had recommended. And, oh, gee, Walt, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out. They won't let me cast extras here. Extras? It was never supposed to be an extra. It was supposed to be a speaking role and a relatively featured speaking. So I left the house, my mother's house. That's where I was living at the time. And I left it, and I was really a little shook up. And I got to the theater where everybody's sitting around a table, and they're reading. They all have scripts. And I said, did I get the time wrong? And then the director says to me, "Oh God," he says, "I meant to call you. I recast."
Oh my God.
Oh, this was a bad day.
This was a bad hour. A freaking hour and a half it took me. So
Unbelievable.
I was furious, and I told him I was furious, and I walked out of there and I said, "Well, if I survive and I still want to be an actor tomorrow, then it's destined. Then it has to happen." And it was. I got up the next morning and said, "Okay, welcome to the real world."
Yeah, right.
So you're now in LA. It's 1960, and how far away are we from you getting an agent, getting auditions, and the Star Trek audition coming up?
Yeah, are you just jobbing? Are you getting guest star spots? And
The first 2 shows I did was literally 3 or 4 lines each. One was The Untouchables. And in the same episode, though I never met him, was Robert Redford. Robert Altman directed the other 3-4 liner that I was in called Combat
Okay.
with Vic Morrow. Played. And I asked him if I could improvise a stutter. And this is Robert Altman, who was just another television director.
Right.
Yeah.
And he says, "Yeah, do what you want." That kind of thing. I said, "How about if I add a couple of pages?"
yeah. I have some notes.
Oh, he regretted that one. I'll show you a stutter in a French accent.
Yeah, so I did that, and I'm still obviously living the stutters.
Back to LA. Let's talk about it. Let's get to some Trek. So do you remember getting that audition and who was casting and how that went? I mean, I know you must have told this story 1,000 times, but
I have.
But there are people who have never heard it. So
Right, and then even if they have.
yeah.
Touche.
So the thing is this. When I was at the Playhouse, one of my teachers said something to me which absolutely changed my life in terms of being an actor. We were doing scenes from a play called Golden Boy. It was about a boxer who was also a violinist and had bad eyes. He had weak eyes. And I was doing the part of the kid, of the play. I think John Garfield played it in the movie.
Yeah.
And my first instinct was the eyes, that's his vulnerable spot. That's what I should exploit in my performance. And so I never mind that the guy is a boxer and he beats the hell out of people and they get in the ring and they, murder each other. All I could see was the eyes. And my teacher said to me, his name was Richard Edelman. He said, "Walter, you have a personal comment. We all have a personal comment on life. And yours is self-pity." And I said, it was like a blow to the solar plexus. And I thought about it for a second. I said, you're right.
From one little hello.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. That's what I do. Okay. The point is, it was then that I realized I don't have to play sensitive roles. I don't have to be always the poor fellow.
Oppressed.
Yeah.
Right.
And which leads us to my Star Trek audition. Because I came in knowing nothing about what was going on. The lines were something on the order of, "Captain, the ship is about to blow up. What are we going to do?" And I read it with
Still got it, isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Fuck me. That was right there. Where's the girl in the little short skirt?
That's right. Where's your girlfriend?
So, nothing. I got nothing from the 5 people in the room. I mean, there was dead silence. What had I done? Had I stepped on somebody's ashes that they hadn't, that was in a vase that I kicked over, And Roddenberry said to me, it was Roddenberry, and there was a director named Joe Pevney, who I had worked for in the Hitchcock, playing opposite Jimmy Caan. I mean, it's so
It's
peculiar.
a small world, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a tiny bit. Hollywood, LA is a big town, but Hollywood's a small village.
That's right.
Yeah,
And never forget that.
That's right.
it's so weird that there is, and he's one of the voices here who's going to make the decision as to who's going to play this continuing character. And so Roddenberry finally said, "Oh, Walter, could you make it funny?" Captain, the ship is about to explode. You know, how you do that? So I said, okay. And I said, Captain, guess what? Our ship is about to explode. They loved it. It's
funny.
They loved it. They loved it. You know,
I hate it when they say it, but that's a good adjustment.
That's right.
yeah. Yeah. So knowing that I had that
That's some
freedom.
shtick there, Walter. You can't teach that.
And there was only one other actor who they had in to read for it.
That was it. You were cast off that.
In
Kidding.
fact,
Good for you.
I was told to wait outside. The other actor, who I knew, who we were up for the same thing.
Have you ever declared who that was?
Yeah, but I don't remember his name.
Right.
But if I do, I'll tell you, because he was working more than I was. He was really a hot young actor.
Right.
In any case,
So that feels good.
God,
Knocked him down.
I'm with my people here.
I chewed on that one for a good 20 years, let me tell you.
So I'm waiting in the outer office. The young actor goes in and he reads. He doesn't come out. Nobody comes out. I didn't know that there was an exit from Gene's office, which was the inner office, to the corridor that everybody leaves from.
Right.
Nobody came out through the anteroom, you know.
So
On a ship to China.
That must have played in your head.
I'm there, and I'm thinking, well, as long as I'm still here, I got a chance.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, you know, it's not hopeless yet. So finally, somebody comes out and says, "Are you Walter Koenig?"
How do you pronounce it? Do you say Koenig or Koenig?
Koenig.
You Koenig. You like prefer Koenig. Yeah.
He says, "Come with me." So I follow him, and we go to the wardrobe room, and he drops to his knees,
Excuse
puts
me.
his hand on my crotch.
No shit.
No shit. I said, "What
We're
are you?"
straight to it.
Did I get it? Did I get it?
I haven't even signed anything yet.
I said, What are you doing? And he says, "Well, I've got to measure you for a costume, don't I?"
Sweetheart. That's how you knew you got it.
That's how I got the part.
Hilarious.
The wardrobe guy told me.
Gently cupping your nuts.
And what were those measurements, Walter?
So had you seen?
We're gonna need more lycra.
Had you seen Star Trek before in the first? You hadn't.
No, well, I had flipped the channels and I saw the styrofoam.
That's right,
rocks.
because you come in season 2, don't you? So
Yeah.
yes, it had been on. So
Yeah.
you knew that there was an entity, all right?
Yeah, but you know, you see the styrofoam rocks and you say, "Oh, how good could this be?"
Right.
So I keep flipping. You know,
He said it.
did you watch Spectre of the Gun?
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
beautiful episode.
That young lady.
Yes.
Okay. Now we got to go back to the neighborhood playhouse.
Your horse rustling saloon girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
So we go back to the neighborhood playhouse when I'm a student there. I have no money. I'm literally living on like $75 a month.
Jesus.
Yeah, eating
You were rich.
Yeah, $5,000 today.
Tell young folk of today.
tuna and salmon in cans. That was
it. That was the diet.
every day. And so I was going to graduate, and I had no money. I was living in an apartment that I shared, which divided up $29 a piece on the
Whereabouts? Yeah, Lower East.
Lower East Side,
Okay.
between Avenue A and Avenue B.
Right.
In any case, I decided that I had to get some money from somewhere just once I get out of school. So I came up with this. I had a friend from my childhood, literally from 9 or 10 years old, who was at that time he was working in construction. And I said, "What is it?" And I called him up. I hadn't spoken to him in years. I said, "What are the chances of a bolt falling from the construction site and hitting somebody?" And he said, "Yeah, it could happen." And I said, "Can you get me one of those?"
I got an idea.
And he says,
Big one.
and he says, "That's great. That's great." Well, there was a guy in our class named Wavy Gravy. Well, he wasn't Wavy Gravy then. Then he was Hugh. Hugh, and I'm not going to say his last name because if he's still alive, some nutso cop is going to come looking for.
We'll call him Hugh Gravy.
Yeah, okay.
Isn't Wavy Gravy an ice cream by, yeah? Yeah.
See, he became a beat poet and became very successful in the village.
Right.
So at this time, though, he's in the first year and I'm in the second year. So after Chris Lloyd and Dabney Coleman and Jimmy Kahn all said no, to being my eyewitness.
You went to the big guns first.
Yes.
Yeah, they could act that.
Walter?
So now you got a Wavy Gravy.
Yeah. Well, Chris Lloyd thought it was great, very funny, but no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And damn, they thought it was a goddamn stupid thing to do. And so I got this guy. Hey man, this is cool. Yeah, let's do this. So he was supposed to walk behind me, and as I stepped into the street on Avenue of the Americas and 50-something Street, and see me get hit by this bolt that was supposedly coming from above, from the construction site. Actually, we had met my friend Peter.
Because on the Avenue of the Americas in 50-something Street, boats often fall from the side of a building.
Yes, that's why we did it there.
Well documented at the time.
Yeah, it was a thing.
So I had a bolt. It was about an 8-pound bolt under my armpit, under my sweater, whatever the hell I was wearing, jacket maybe. And I went into the Peter McGee, by the way.
You were going to drop the bolt.
Yes, but I had a newspaper in my hand. And I went
and a red chiffon was going to come out of my heart.
No, better. I had a razor blade. And I went into the bar next to the construction site, cut my lip, had the newspaper up to my face, came out. Hugh panicked. This cool cat panicked and walked in front of me. So he couldn't possibly see what was happening. And I stepped into the street, and of course I had to scream now in order for him to turn around and see me. So I fell to the ground. The bolt dropped out of my jacket, and the blood is coming down my face. And then he gets up, and he says, "Somebody do something. Just don't stand." It was the worst freaking performance in the history of live theater, And my tears were for real because it was so bad. So my brother was a resident in a hospital in the Bronx. They took me into the office there at the construction site, and I called him, and they called him and said, "Your brother has been hit by a bolt from a construction."
From heaven?
It wasn't from heaven. So he was waiting for me with an armada of doctors and nurses, when I stepped out of the cab. And he came running up to me. And I said, "Norm, I faked it." And he said, "Shit. Okay, we got to go through with it." And I said, right. So they did the x-ray, and I'm clogging what the pain is and all. I got an attorney.
Gee, you went all the way with this.
I went, I got that. I got to get some money.
Let me ask you this. So did they look at the bolt to see it had no blood on it?
No.
They didn't?
No.
Dumbasses.
That's right.
Did they notice that your face wasn't bruised because nothing had hit it?
Well, I kept saying it hurts.
Oh, my fucking dumbasses. So did you get a result?
I got a good result. I got enough money to buy a car.
Oh, shit.
But the car was terrible. But you know what the car was?
Maybe.
The car, listen to this. The car was an Anglia. You know what an Anglia is?
Of course I do. Yeah, it's a British car. Yeah.
Terrible.
Oh. You should have got a bigger bolt.
Right.
It was my curse. I was my felony was I paid for my felony.
Yeah, what goes around comes around.
Well, have you ever told that story before?
To who?
Have you ever told this story before?
Well, yeah, I have.
You have.
As a matter of fact, I was at a party about 20 years ago.
Who did you sue? The construction site?
I didn't sue anybody. I just said, I'm hurt.
So who paid out? I mean, who was it that paid out?
U.S. Steel.
No kidding.
J.P. Morgan himself.
Yeah, the first check, kids, ladies and gentlemen.
That's awesome.
Actors. And we will sue you.
That's right.
And I bought the car, and the car was terrible. I had to carry a teapot with me all the time because it would overheat. I'd go over a bump in the road.
I thought it was because of a British car.
Yeah.
You have to have
It just works better when I have a teapot with it.
She just feels better.
and you can drink tea at the same time.
It doesn't work otherwise.
So second season, Star Trek.
You'd never seen it before you started working.
You'd not seen the
You'd never
first
seen
season. No. What was the cast like coming in, and who was there? So DeForest was there, and obviously Jim and
Bill Shatner and Jimmy Doohan and DeForest Kelley and Nichelle Nichols. George was not there. George was shooting a movie, but he was doing a movie with John Wayne called Green Berets.
Was he really?
And they were in overtime. They were going weeks over. That was so. As a consequence, I got the parts that George would have gotten.
Right.
He would have been a second-year player.
Right.
So, but they changed them a little bit so they fit my character.
Did you know that you were going to do longer than that? Just that second season? Did they?
I didn't know I was going to do the whole season. No, I wasn't under contract. I was on an
episodic fee.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'd find out at the end of the week when the new scripts would come down, and I'd look at somebody's script and I'd see that Chekov was in it. So that's how I learned.
That's how you learned that you were back in for another shoot.
Yeah.
You were at Desilu Studios, weren't you?
Paramount.
And the entrance is, am I right in thinking that entrance is on Gower there? That was the entrance to the Desilu part of Paramount at that time, is that right?
It was, but I think yes.
Did you go in the front gate?
We came in, we also came in on Melrose. I think when we were doing the features, we came in on Melrose.
Right.
But when we were doing the series, because it was like Stage 31 and was right next to Mission Impossible.
Stage 31, right next to the TV show Mission Impossible.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Well, what did you think doing your first episode, having never seen it before? The tone and the general sense of what the show was like.
I was mostly interested in just doing a good job.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have done it if it was the series was dedicated to the American Nazi Party, But other than that, I'm up for anything.
Yeah, getting paid is good.
Yeah.
First thing, you did a brilliant job.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Fantastic.
Walter. I mean, acting has morphed and changed and matured, but your performance still holds up, mate. I see that.
Certainly
I've
does.
looked at your work quite a lot in the last 10 days, getting ready to come and sit down with you now. I got to tell you, pal, it's in your bones.
Well,
And,
bless your heart. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's more than a pleasure to say so.
God, I wish I could say the same, but I've
Never seen the show.
never seen Enterprise. I've never seen it.
You're not the only one.
I'm very good, and I'm the captain.
But shy around women.
And shy around women, a button-down Brit.
No, I know that's not true. I have stories about you. Yeah, we won't go into that.
So we're at Desilu, and you're coming back. Do you know you're coming back for a third season by the end of season 2?
It was very much up in the air. It was.
Were you getting to watch episodes by then? Were they airing them as you were shooting them by the time you were finishing season 2, or did you have to wait a period of time before they were up on TV for you to look at them again?
Well, we started shooting, I think, in April, May, and they were on the air by September.
So you might have just caught one or two by the time you. And did you shoot an episode in a week back in those
6
days?
days.
6 days, right? And
Yeah.
that was a Monday through Friday and a Monday, or did you work the weekend? Did you work Saturday?
No.
So Monday through Friday, and then a weekend off, and then a Monday, and then you start over again.
Right. And everything, all the planets were shot on a soundstage.
Right.
All except for some things that were done at Vasquez Rocks.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys.
Oh yeah.
They've been going out there for years.
Forever. It's every lunar surface and Mars surface, any planet.
Yeah.
So we had two sound stages, one with the bridge and one with exteriors, planet went down to the planet.
And what was that cast like? I mean, were you quite friendly? Was everyone? I know. I know Bill a bit. We got quite friendly when we followed him and Leonard around on Leonard's last hurrah on the convention circuit.
And you got another girlfriend out of that, right? Didn't you?
Dear Leonard, may he rest in peace.
You followed them. You followed.
We followed them around. We did a 7-city tour. It was Leonard's last hurrah. He was quite invalid by the end of it, and his wife was having to help him around in a wheelchair quite a bit at the end. We did 7 cities, I think, didn't we? We did Boston and Chicago. I
remember Chicago.
So you did the stuff that you do at a regular convention?
Yeah.
It was just convention.
And
That's when I first got to know Bill. He was starting to put together The Captains, that documentary. That I know he fell out with Leonard about in the end. Yeah.
So who cast the two of you? I mean, who chose you two guys?
Junie Lowry Johnson,
Ron Surma. That was.
Oh, so you're casting director.
and then they brought us in, and then Rick and Brannon, Rick Berman and Brannon brought us.
I met them all for a guest star on Voyager that I thought I was going to get. I rang my manager and said, "We're doing Star Trek next week." Never heard from them again. But Rick had got. He looked at. He said, "Hey, that guy could play." They were thinking about our show. It was 18 months away. Didn't call.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He had me in mind. He came up to me at the end of season 1 and said, "I had your photograph on my desk for 18 months, Dominic."
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's a reminder to every actor. Show up at every audition, kid.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
I saw Rick interviewed on a YouTube thing, and he was talking about the casting of Enterprise. And it got to me, and he said some very nice things. But then he said, Connor was the only actor I chose in the entire time I was running Star Trek that the network didn't want.
He had to say it, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, they fought for me, but it was like...
Jonathan Frakes had a bit of a problem too,
Did he?
He did like 9 or 10 auditions.
Yeah, he did.
I did 6.
Yeah, he was close.
Yeah.
Look, it's the big cheese part, mate. And
I was in my underwear a lot.
He was. I don't know how to take that.
All right.
The engineer.
This interview's over. I knew you were all swingers.
Can we cut that?
Oh, boy.
Were you made a contract player in the 3rd season?
I was.
You were.
I was, and a couple of the other people were not. They were dropped from the contract. They ended up doing the show, but of the supporting actors, I believe I was the only one was given a contract. You know what it meant in terms of my income? About $1,000 more for the entire season.
Oh,
Wow.
And you know what my
so
income,
I got myself a second Anglia. With a teapot.
That's right.
I might add. I'm a 2-teapot Anglia striving guy now.
This one's got a cozy.
$750 a week.
That's
Wow.
How am I looking?
And now that I'm a contract player, if they don't use me, they don't pay me. So if this part is very small in the 2nd season, they'd have me in for a day, and I get paid for the day.
All right.
In the 3rd season, if they can avoid using me, then they don't pay me, and that money is saved.
All right, gotcha. When did you know that the show was had taken off, as it were, and it was going to be a flyer?
Well, before I was on it, there was an enormous amount of activity in fandom.
There was.
After the 1st season, to get the show back. That was the first thing, was to get the show back.
After the pilot, they didn't like the pilot.
They
did
didn't
they?
like the pilot.
No.
And then what's his name?
Jeffrey Hunter.
Yeah. Well, from what I heard, and it's could be just hearsay, his wife talked him out of coming back to do a second pilot. That's what I heard.
Oh.
So she didn't want him to do it. She didn't think it was up to his standards. So.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, whoops, indeed. So now let me ask you this: what other shows were there on American telly that you might have been equivalent to? Was this so strikingly brand new and innovative?
I didn't think of it in those terms. To me, it was just a job. I wasn't aware of the.
What I was going to say. What about this multiracial casting bit and stuff like that? Was that evident to you as an actor?
It was, but it didn't really ring a bell for me. It didn't make me. After the fact, I said to people, if I had to be identified with one series for 4 or 5 decades, it might as well be Star Trek, because at least they had this sense about it takes place during a time when people of all ethnicities and cultures could get together, could live with each other. And I thought that's an admirable thing. That's something worthwhile.
Yeah, I applaud that. Yeah, absolutely. We're both super.
So it was, but it wasn't even the stories so much as it was just that personnel. Just looking at the bridge and seeing an African American woman and a Japanese American man and a half human being, etc. So that was good.
Was that you?
Yeah.
The Munchkin.
God, I don't know
It's a
how.
tough table, isn't it?
I don't know how you
how we get
found
people
that
around here.
How did you find that out? Who told you?
Wikipedia. I'm a subscriber. Everyone's subscribed. Wikipedia. You're welcome, Wikipedia.
And what got you canceled?
Evidently, from what I've read over the course of all these years, is Gene had a very bad relationship with the network, Gene Roddenberry. It was very contentious, and he was very determined to do things his way, which were not bad, way. And in fact, probably in many cases, it was probably the proper way to have things go. But a lot of these people who were executives with the network had been in the mailroom. They had graduated through reasons and through tributes and resources that
Cousins.
that didn't have anything to do with being wise in the industry.
Yeah. Plus ça change.
And they would, their arguments were frequently, from what I understand, were unsound. Why we should do this, why we should not do this episode, why we should change this character. And I can believe that. I can believe that these executives at NBC were a considerable part of the problem. So, and they were looking for an excuse, looking for a reason not to go forward with the series.
Was it an expensive show in
Yes.
in terms? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that, actually.
A quick plug for somebody. There are a series of books called These Are the Voyages. And they're all about Star Trek's, our series, about films, and about, I don't know if it's all 5 series, or 5 different series, but it's certainly about ours and several of the others, explaining the machinations of doing the show and what transpired between the staff of the show and the staff at NBC, and how all of that, there was a great deal of the dynamic in that could be very, very coarse and very.
It's ego. It's always ego, mate.
Yeah.
It's always what screws everything up. Is but I've got to say something about it.
Right.
So I know Cancellation's still pretty fresh for Connor and I.
20 years later.
How did that work?
It was coming.
It was. No, the reason we knew we shot about 6 or 7 episodes in the full knowledge that this was it. Did you shoot a bunch of episodes at the end of season 4, knowing that you were all this was it for the show?
We didn't have a season 4. We
Was
only
it 3 seasons? Sorry, season 3.
Yeah. What happened? One of the moments that really remember, and what was probably imprinted forever, is Jimmy, George, and I were doing a magazine layout with horses. I mean, Star Trek and horses. You know, that's for the girls.
You know, yeah.
So what did Horse Monthly think of Star Trek? the readers.
Oh my God.
So what do you mean you're doing a shoot with horses?
So it's for the kids, you know, and we were on our mounts, and somebody came over, and the photographer was close by and ready to shoot, and said, there's been a switch in your schedule. We were scheduled to perform the third season at 8 o'clock on Monday, which is a great time, particularly for my character. It's all the little kids, you know, they're all still up at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Not 10 o'clock Friday. And that's what we were switched to, laughing.
That was the beginning, the thin end of the wedge, as it were,
Yeah.
when you got pushed to 10.
See, what happened was that Laughing came in with Goldie Hawn and all those folks, and they were a mid-season replacement the prior season, and they had done so well that they gave them our spot, and we took theirs.
Right, swapped.
Yeah.
Right.
So Friday at 10 o'clock, we all knew. The only person who was convinced that we would go for a fourth season was Jimmy. I don't know what that means, but he felt that we would go a fourth season. But nobody else, everybody else knew we were done.
He was a lovely man, wasn't he? I met him at my first convention, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah.
Cohen,
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Still around in those days. What did I had a question on my mind just now. So you are lucky. So you did shoot some episodes knowing that you were going to be cancelled, or it was just you'd finished season 3 and it was the rescheduling of the time slot, and you knew, oh, we're not coming back now.
Yeah.
That was it. What kind of numbers were you getting back in those days that were, you know, what sort of network numbers?
They weren't as bad as NBC said they were. We were generally running second in our time slot.
Was that tens of millions or in those days? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I
because
think so.
everyone had to.
That's all there was.
That's all there was.
Yeah. I mean, we had a similar experience too when we realized that, you know, our show was on in the beginning stages of DVR, of recording, and they didn't count when our show was recorded.
Right. That's
So there
true.
was a whole host
Yeah.
of households that were watching our show.
That's when TiVo first came out, wasn't it?
Yeah, that it didn't count.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a...
We were always a ginger-headed stepchild of UPN's flagship showing.
Yeah.
I'm afraid.
They had forgotten what they were doing, and they were going in different directions all over the place. I mean, we would be during baseball season. We would be our show wouldn't air because of, you know, it didn't air in St. Louis, where Scott's from.
We didn't air in Texas on Friday nights because they were showing high school football. I kid you not.
Oh, well, I don't doubt
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Friday night high school football in Texas?
Yeah.
It's a religion.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I've since really got into it. Do you know? So after you finished the show, that's what, 1969 or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember? So how many years? It's a good 15, 16, 17 years till you come back and shoot the first movie, isn't it?
No.
No? How many years is it?
About 10.
10 years. So yeah, okay. What were you? Do you remember when was the first convention were you doing conventions while you were shooting the show, or did you? Was it so they got going in that interim period?
Yeah.
Right.
What happened was, you know, it was like a centrifugal force or something where the fans and their enthusiasm just generated more interest and more interest. And
do you remember how that showed up in your life initially, as it were? I mean, how did you get wind of it? Because we didn't have any of the usual social media that we would understand today. What was how did agents know that this show's got some legs here?
Oh, I don't know if the agents ever knew.
No.
You know, my sense was that we had a very large fan base that wasn't being totally acknowledged. by the network, and that it was more
Underground and
well, it was there was a lot of enthusiasm that wasn't registering.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you get fan mail?
I got an enormous amount
Sacks
of
of fan mail.
I did. In fact, I got an enormous amount of fan mail.
He was going to tell me about one of them. I saw it.
No, I was going to tell you how plentiful my mail was, opposed to other
Other actors on the show, no kidding.
Yeah. So, but I'm not going to do that.
You were a good-looking man, Walter. You're a good-looking man. So let's talk about the first convention. Where was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was in L.A. I think it was at the airport, and there was no money involved. And
At a hotel near the airport.
Yeah,
Right.
And they had a costume parade.
All right.
And the costume parade was where we were eating, and people came in all sorts of costumes. And one young lady came in a no costume.
Literally.
Just literally.
Virtually.
Yeah. She walked down the middle aisle.
Was she green or not even? Didn't bother with it?
No.
Just Son's costume.
Yeah. Just and
fantastic.
she was okay. She handled it very well. She was just totally naked.
We've been happily married for 45 years.
How many people were there?
I'd say 1,000, maybe more, maybe more.
What do you think caused the rapid rise in numbers of people attending conventions? I mean, it's dissipated.
Legal part.
Now, it's only a couple years old, but I mean, I just you hadn't put a movie out yet,
No.
and then this sort of subculture comes out and starts conventions, and then it starts to, doesn't it frankly explode?
Pretty much. And I think initially the motivation for conventions was to get Star Trek back on the air.
Yes,
Make sure.
right.
So the people who would come were really diehard fans who really loved it. Why? I'm not sure. I mean, I like science fiction. I don't love it, but I like it. I think, there's some things that are... Close Encounters will always be one of my favorite movies.
Mm-hmm.
But so people came for that reason, to form a force to make the network take heed and alert them to the very substantial and growing crowd of fans that were out
the
there.
burgeoning support. And then Star Wars happens, of course.
Yeah, well, actually, Star Wars happened. Star Wars was responsible for our making our first movie.
Absolutely, yeah. There were headless chicken moments at all the studios going, what are we going to do?
Where did we get one of those?
And at Paramount, do we have anything?
Don't we have that? Don't we own something like that?
Oh, yeah.
So when did that? What was that phone call? When that phone call came through, do you guys want to come back and make a movie?
Except, and there's a big except here, it didn't happen when they said it was going to happen. Initially, about 19, I'm guessing now, but I'd say we were canceled in the spring of 1969. Around 1974, Gene called and said, everybody get back into shape. We're going to make a new series. And
how fat were you?
I wasn't.
You've always been trim, haven't you?
Well, I remember going in and the wardrobe, same guy, still there.
Just waiting for you guys to come back.
Yeah.
Cuff to the left.
Yeah, that's Walter.
Is it?
So we came in, we had a costume fitting. I was told that I was the only one who was really in,
The same shape.
the same size as I was.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I got home. Ring! Yes, this is Paramount. I'm calling to tell you that there's been a change of plans. We are not going forward with the Star Trek television series. The same day, the same afternoon. So just like that.
Fuck this business, man. It's just, it's head, it bows your head, doesn't it?
So a few years go by. All this stuff is all happening behind closed doors. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if, as far as I know, it's a dead issue. And then they decide they're going to do a low budget feature. a low-budget feature
With your cast or another?
with some of us, not all of us. Just
They're just dipping their toe a bit in the...
Bill, Leonard, and DeForest.
Right.
And then,
Right.
but then Star Wars is so successful
Massive.
that they rethink it and they look at it again, and then they ask all of us to be in it. And it was a curious situation. Contract wise, it was the only movie where we had a number of weeks where it was the number of weeks we were each going to work was defined.
All right.
So if you
For a
work,
fee, or was it by the week, as it were? Was it?
no,
was
it
a
was
set
it
fee?
was a fee,
A fee, right?
and if you went over, then they had to pay you more.
So if
And
they went past the amount of weeks that they say
Right.
were saying you were going to work, they would pay you what you would call adage overtime.
yeah,
whatever
so
you wanna call
we
it.
were. I'm sure George and Nichelle got the same deal. We were like offered 6 weeks work
Right.
at for this amount of money.
Right.
We went 11 weeks.
I'll buy
did
you a
all
couple
right.
new couches.
Yeah. I got a driveway full of them Anglias by now.
Love that car.
In fact, do you want one?
Love that car.
Yeah. So after that, they changed the contracts for 2 through 6, and it was we were contracted for run of the movie.
Yeah.
And they spent some money on that film. I mean, that wasn't a small big
it was
budget.
supposed to be about 35 million,
Right.
and it was 80.
Yeah, that was a big budget back then. What year was that? 79?
79, 80.
79, yeah.
Well, it was a big budget, not on purpose. I mean, it wasn't.
went over.
It wasn't reflected in what you see on the screen as much. We had a special effects company that didn't deliver what they promised,
Right.
and they had to be replaced halfway through the film.
That's
They were up there
expensive.
working and getting these shots, and they weren't any good. They didn't work.
They just looked like crap, did they?
Yeah.
I guess the technology back then was pretty hit and miss, but yeah. Did you know after the first movie that you were likely going to do a slew of them, or was it?
No, as a matter of fact, I owe John Povell, who's one of our associate producers, $50, and I've owed it to him since 1970.
Is he still with us?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
God, and I haven't forgotten. John, I swear to God, you show up my door, I'll give it to you. Because I was convinced.
You know, I'm going to see him this afternoon later on.
Yeah.
We all flew to Washington D.C. for the premiere, and we all came in limos, in the red carpet and the tuxedos, and the movie played, and it was pretty bad. It was just, you could never convince me that this was a good riveting film.
Right.
And I remember standing up, and Hal Livingston, I think, I'm not sure about his first name. He was one of the producers on the film and contributed to the writing. He was sitting in front of me, and he stood up, and we both turned and looked at each other. We went, and
We've been in a couple of those.
Yep.
and I was positive that was it. We were never going to do another one. I was sure we would never do another one. And the reviews were dreadful.
Were they garish?
Oh,
yeah,
my.
I think I remember.
The Washington papers was what I first saw. And I got to tell you that I get down on my knees and I thank the Lord that one of the reviews didn't mention me at all.
I'm clear.
That's in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody else these were actors who should be on TV, not making movies. They were over the hill. They were, way beyond their abilities.
Prime and ability, right?
Yeah.
I was saying that to Connor. God, I mean, I think when that movie did get made, I did think of you all as old men, and I'm like, God, I give my hind teeth to be 50 right now. Right now. So how soon after the first one did you come back for the second film? Was it a couple of years or more?
It was only a couple of years, and I was really surprised
Well, yeah.
because they saw somebody had some insight, and they saw the possibility. despite the fact the movie did well enough, despite the fact that it wasn't terribly riveting, wasn't terribly good, to warrant a second movie. And if it could be done better, if it could be more successful, like the Star Wars movies, then it might be worthwhile to continue.
They must have been aware by now of this, die-hard core level of just adoration for your cast, that show that was out there, ready to be, tapped and and built upon.
Well, I think we might want to go into questions.
Oh yes, we got some fan questions.
Okay, I have the first question for you. Are there any fans in your life that you've built a friendship with over the years? And that's from Margaret via Patreon.
For periods of time, I mean, it's a whole life has gone by. I was 31 and now I'm 86. Friendships that have nothing to do with fandom don't last, 50 years. So there were people during the course of this whole experience that I maintained friendships with for years.
You were 31 when you started the original show?
Yeah.
You look like a younger man, actually.
Yeah, I was supposed to be 22.
Yeah, you certainly look it.
Yeah.
Another question, darling Erica.
Okay. This is from Nancy Congdon via Patreon. Have you done Shakespeare? If so, what is your favorite role?
Well, I've done Antony and Cleopatra. Mm-hmm. I did that with Timothy Dalton.
Mm.
And
which one were you?
I played Pompey. Mm. They wanted to give me Caesar to play. Was
that a stage production? Or?
Well, it was shot like a stage production, but it was shot.
Right.
And it was Encyclopedia Britannica. It was the sponsor of it. In it were Redgrave.
Oh, Vanessa?
Lynn,
right.
Lynn Redgrave.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
And also the guy who was the lead on General Hospital.
That I wouldn't know.
Yeah, he was in the original series. Anyway, they asked me if I wanted to do Caesar. And I said,
You'd have been a great Caesar.
It's so freaking long. There's so much dialogue. And, for one performance, I mean, we were going to shoot it, proscenium, pretty much.
So you can't have a prompter. You got to learn it, and
Can you imagine prompting Shakespeare?
Yeah,
it's like nope.
Yeah, for one performance, that's a lot. Isn't it?
Timothy Dalton said to me, and we were sitting there. He has a distinguishable English accent.
Yes,
and they wanted us to be mid-Atlantic.
Ugh.
Have you ever heard of that expression?
Oh, you're kidding me? It drives me nuts.
Oh, so
when they honestly, what is a mid-Atlantic accent? I mean, it's a 1940s, darling,
British light.
British light. It's Katharine Hepburn on a couple of martinis.
Yeah, exactly. So he said to me, I have more f***ing notes than I have dialogue.
James Bond, I'll have you know.
Probably the worst.
And of course, you played Quince in Midsummer Nights.
Yeah. And that's the other one.
And so I remember when we sound checked at the beginning of this, you knew the first speech from Richard III. So
yes, I do. That was an audition piece.
All right. Yeah.
I memorized that for the purpose.
And you still remember it.
I know, it's very weird.
No, it's impressive, mate. It really is.
Very good.
Is this the dagger I see before me? The handle toward my hand. Come, let me clap. I should never have quoted that. Not in a fucking theatre.
Thank you.
Oh, I got to hang on. We got to do something. Wait a sec. Sorry, that's for Tracy in Oregon. If you quote the Scottish play in a theatre,
Macbeth.
you better watch. Oh, bloody hell, mate.
Who's got a salt shaker? All right, what else we got?
All right, we're all good. All right, another question.
All right. This is from Simon Ingram via Facebook, and they're asking you guys, Con and Dom, can you ask Dom or Con? Can you ask Walter about Babylon 5 too?
Yeah, we haven't talked about Babylon 5. Let's get into a bit of that. So, did you join? You were at the beginning, or did you join that cast?
No, I joined it. It was I did episodes each year, but I only did 12 altogether. But each year I did, and I went from 1 to 2 to 4 to 4.
What was the part?
It's a good part. It was really a good part. It was so much more. I talked about that the Star Trek role was really just there to promote the story. Captain, there's something strange out there. I don't know what it is. Well, let me tell you. That was Star Trek.
I'm right there. I tell you, every time he gets me.
On Babylon 5, I'd have dialogue that was intrinsic to character and was also revelatory in terms of what the story was about. So, and I was treated very well. Everybody was good. And all the actors, the execs. It was just a terrific experience. I love being able to to crow about the good things, the good things. I've been known to bitch, when things have gone bad, or to try to make a joke out of it, like Sid Pollock telling me I'll never get the girl.
Right.
But so B5 was a lot of fun. One tiny thing that happened. J. Michael Straczynski was the creator producer, and I had known him through Harlan. And I didn't know him well, but he asked me to. He had taken over a sci-fi radio show called Hour 25, and he had Judy, my wife, and I on the show reading a 2-character script that he had written for Twilight Zone. He had been on staff at Twilight Zone.
How many years? You did 3-4 years of Babylon?
5.
5 years. That's a good run, man.
Yeah, well, as I say, it was just, but each time I was on, it was really satisfying. It was a rewarding experience. And I know what I was going to say. Yeah. The first year, they did a pilot for Babylon 5, and the guy who played the captain, the distributors didn't like his work. This was the pilot. And they didn't want to go forward with him as the captain. And J. Michael Straczynski called me and said, would you do a scene with our captain? Because the distributors won't go forward and do the series unless he shows that he's a tougher, sharper guy. So they rented a loft. They brought in a cameraman and a sound man and a couple of lights. And I played opposite him.
Just as a sort of audition piece, as it were, for them to show that he has some juice?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Good. That's very sweet of you.
And no, it was fun. I got to really put him down, and he just got pissed and more pissed and angrier. And he was really...
You can't just let him have it.
Yeah, and he was raving, and they went, and that was his audition piece to do the series. Wow. So he did the first year. But he had a lot of problems. They've been discussed, but I don't want to go into them now. But he did not come back from the second year.
We have another question from a fan.
We have one more. This is from Steph via our website. I want to know what inspired Walter to create Enoch when he wrote the script for Land of the Lost.
Yeah. Now that's an interesting situation. I knew the story editor. I had written one of the Star Trek animated episodes, and
just now these new.
No, back in the day.
Oh, back in the day ones. Yes.
Yeah. And so he called me in and he told me what this Land of the Lost was. It's a live action show. Can silence convey a sense of dissatisfaction? Let's just say there's a huge silence here as to the show itself. But I don't remember. I just tried to come up with something that hadn't been done a lot. I wasn't a seasoned sci-fi writer writing that kind of stuff. So I came to it with my own approach, and I don't exactly remember what it was but the character was supposedly from another time, but I led the audience to believe it was from the future and it was really from the past, or the other way around, and that was part of the story, and it turned out to be one of their most successful episodes. I never knew this. I never knew that. Once I had finished writing it, that was it, and I was done.
I love it. All these people who turn around and tell you it's crap, and then it turns out to be a gold mine.
I loved that show as a kid. I loved Land of the Lost.
Yeah, yes, I watched a bit of Land of the Lost. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm going to leave now.
Walter, on that note, mate, I think we've taken up way too much of your time, but it's been just a joy to sit down with you like this after
Really
all these
has.
years of knowing you, knowing you, but not like this at the cons. But now when we see each other again, it's going to be a new day. And I'm telling that story about the bolt. I don't care who knows it. Yeah, thank you, mate.
Yeah, thank you. And it's so nice to be able to, ride along with the journey as you remember it. It's a real honor to be able to sit here and do that with you.
For the three of us, at the time we represented the first and last of Star Trek, as it were, of an era of Paramount's, production of that that title. And God bless, man.
Yeah.
It really is fantastic. Really fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Boys and girls, ladies and gents, Treks and Trekkers, suck it up.
That's an evening.